Welcome to the circus. Welcome to the damn circus. Not this show. The Sacramento Kings. They're so back. They are so freaking back. That's James. I'm Kyle. Usually the vibes are good on a Friday. And they're like, that's fine. The energy is fine. The vibes, though, are down because the Mike Brown contract situation has officially become a circus. And it didn't need to be. If you missed it, if you're living under a rock, last night, or I say living under a rock, if you're not on Twitter, Shams Charania from The Athletic reported that the Sacramento Kings have made, this is verbatim, by the way, off of Shams' Twitter. The Sacramento Kings have made a competitive offer to head coach Mike Brown on a contract extension. 3 years and $21 million through 2026-27, up to $27 million with bonuses, sources say. So far, no agreement. Brown is believed to be seeking around $10 million annually. Later reporting from Fox 40's Sean Cunningham, friend of the show. Some additional context surrounding the Kings' proposed offer to Mike Brown. According to sources, Sacramento's recent offer is believed to be comparable to Jason Kidd's extension with the Dallas Mavericks. Let's put a pin in that momentarily. My gripe with this is not so much the $7 million a year. That's not outrageous. It's not insulting. It's a little low for sure, but not an outrageously low number. If that contract got reported, 3 years, $21 million up to 2017 in bonuses, it'd have been like, oh, okay, like that's a nice little deal for the Kings. Obviously, Mike wanted to be here and this and that, but my problem comes in, and then $27 million in bonuses. You get that's up to $9 million a year, basically, depending on what those bonuses are. And it insulates the Kings from their worry of, hey, we don't like this coach anymore. We're going to let him go and don't have to pay him $10 million a year. My issue with this, James, is that instead of continuing to do this behind closed doors and continuing to go through these negotiations and doing the numbers and stuff in the privacy of an office or Zoom or phone or however the heck these negotiations get done, I have no idea. They go to Shams with a quote-unquote competitive offer that is only 3 years instead of 4 or more and is $7 million a year, which is, like I said, not insulting, but not something where you're suddenly going to be pounding the table and going, whoa, Mike Brown, now the ball's in his court. Why is he not signing this deal? There's a clear middle ground here.
Yeah.
If Mike Brown wants 10 as per Shams, and the Kings offered, let's say 10 million per, and the Kings offered 7 per as per Shams, there's a middle ground here. There's a legit middle ground between those two numbers.
There is.
8.5, by the way, if you're not great at math. It's $8.5 million a year.
Oh, yeah.
That to me feels more like in the competitive offer range. And the 3 years on top of this, I'm sorry for rambling, the 3 years on top of this continue to indicate what we've been talking about has been the problem the whole time, is that lack of wanting to commit to the coach. It's 3 years, so it's through 2026, 27. So he gets through 25, he would had 3 more seasons.
Okay, but the way I read this is we're going into the 24-25.
Right.
The 25-26.
Right.
And then 26-27.
So he gets 3 seasons.
3 seasons. So, but what that means is they're tearing up his current deal, which pays him less than $5 million. And they're giving him 3 new seasons. That's what that would look like. And of those 3 new seasons, or we could say maybe they're not tearing up his deal. Maybe they are giving him closer to that, but not really, because they're keeping his current salary. So I don't know. I don't like the negotiating fully. This is like super transparent. Like there isn't a lot of ways in which you can read this as somebody else. This isn't like some sort of like shell game where somebody who didn't have anything to do with anything is putting things out there that may look like the Kings put something out there. I don't buy any of that. Like this is full on negotiating in the press. And for me, on a day when a former president of the United States got convicted of 34 felonies,
Mm-hmm.
and the Dallas Mavericks are clubbing the Minnesota Timberwolves
Mm-hmm.
on their way to the finals. Half the basketball Twitter just went like, "What was that?
Yeah.
What are you like? What the? Who just put that out there? Like, what are we doing?" That's what just happened.
To me, it's very obvious, by the way, who put this out there.
Yeah.
If it's going to be reported as a competitive offer of 3 years and 21 million with 6 additional million in potential bonuses,
yeah.
there's zero incentive for Mike Brown to leak it that way. Zero. Or Mike Brown or Mike Brown's camp.
Yeah.
So to me, this is coming from the Kings. Whether I'm not even going to name because I don't know if it's Monty McNair or Vivek or Wes Wilcox or Doug Christie or whoever. I don't know.
Well, I wouldn't take that last name out. He wouldn't ever leak anything.
I was just picking people I know who are around the organization. No, so I don't even. I genuinely have no idea. But it's so clear that this came from the Kings side, and it's like, why? There's clearly beef here over maybe a year on the contract or $1 million or $2 million, because I'm guessing that Mike Brown is believed to be seeking around $10 million annually. Yeah. That's Mike Brown's camp going, yeah, hey, we want 10. And you've got the Kings who are going, hey, what about 7? And negotiations go, you meet somewhere in the middle.
I would agree.
That's how this works.
Yeah, so I'm on board with what you're saying. And like, look, I think that there is a way. We can get into the Jason Kidd stuff. First of all, I've heard that that's not the number that Kidd got at all. Like, Kidd's, if you go look on the internet, Kidd's number isn't out there. It's higher than that. It's higher than that. And this is one of those things where it's like,
they kept it out of the press. Weird. Okay.
Yeah. So
sure.
Yeah, they did actually keep it out of the press. I don't know the exact number, but here's the problem you have with Jason Kidd. First of all, he's got a 522 career win percentage. He's had like below 500 records multiple times. He was about to get fired last season when the Dallas Mavericks didn't make the playoffs. They didn't even make the play-in. They were bad. And Jason Kidd was on the ropes. Jason Kidd makes it back for another year. Heaven forbid you give a guy 3 years to actually build a program, and all of a sudden him and 2 superstars are in the finals.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a bad comp. Like, Jason Kidd is bad. There are so many other coaches. We went through the list. We think there are like 8 or 9 coaches that we know right now are making 10 million or more.
Mm-hmm.
You can look at Budenholzer's 5-year 50. You can look at Doc Rivers 4-year 40. You can look at, like, yesterday when Ty Lue got 14 million a year for 5 years or whatever?
Yeah.
That just happened.
Yeah.
Like, all of these coaches are lining up, and I don't think that, like, you don't take a step backwards. And hey, let's put incentives in. That's fine. I'm totally fine with incentives. Sure. But if, again, you want to get to make 1 or 2 easily like reachable incentives, and then maybe 1 or 2 that are like pie in the sky, maybe do like 500,000 for making the playoffs, 250,000 for making the second round, 250 for making the third round. Now all of a sudden we're up to $1 million.
Yeah.
And then, like, if you can win the NBA finals, you get X amount. If you're NBA coach of the year, you get X amount. That all makes sense. Like, these deals don't seem like they should be that difficult. But when you're asking somebody to take below market value, or at least it appears it appears that somebody decided to put out there what exactly they were offering, and it's below market values. 3-year, $21 million is below market value, because I don't care about those incentives right now, because those incentives literally could just be like winning an NBA championship and being coach of the year.
Yeah.
We don't know what those incentives are.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think it's probably a moment to take a step back. But I also would point out, it's something I wrote last night on Twitter. They're back at the negotiating tables. After this, discussions have been tabled from Woj last week. They're back at the negotiating table. They're having conversations. And I think we're getting closer and closer to a deal to be done. To me, last night felt like crowdsourcing. The crowdsourcing did not go well for whoever put that tweet out there. It didn't go well for Shams, and it didn't go well for anyone out there who actually gave him that information, because it didn't. Like, you go look at the reaction the reaction is, like very similar to what our friend Kenny says all the time. Like yesterday's price is not today's price.
Yep.
It just like the dynamics have changed. It's not crazy. And it's also, it's on Mike as one of the veteran coaches in the NBA to fight for that middle ground, for that around $10 million a year range. And that's because you want to solidify that for all the other coaches. That's what you want to do. And for Mike to take a huge step back off of what everyone else is getting, you think he's like he's worth half of what Ty Lue just got?
Yeah,
because that's what that figure is. It's basically half. That's crazy.
I want to know what sparked them to do this. I'm going to here, just so everybody listening knows, I'm operating under the assumption that the Kings leaked this.
Yeah.
If I'm wrong and we find out down the road, I will be the first to stand here on the radio and admit my wrongness, and we can talk about it then. I'm going to operate based on everything we know and based on how the tweet is worded.
Yes.
That the Kings leaked this. Why would you do this? There was nothing. It's not like Mike Brown's people put out a tweet or leaked something through Woj that last night that said the Kings have not made Mike Brown an offer, or anything like that. And this is in response to that. This was just a random, like, hey, I heard something on TV or a podcast or on the radio today that I didn't like, or I was walking down the street and some Kings fan said something to me and I didn't like it. So I went to Shams because people need to know that we have made a competitive offer. And it's like, no, you didn't.
Yeah.
You didn't. It's just, you made an offer. Cool. And that's fine. And if, like I said, if they send that offer to Mike Brown, again, I don't know how this works. I don't know if they mail it or fax or call or text. I don't know. But if that's the offer, they say, hey, I know in the NFL, it's typically phone calls. You go, hey, what about 3 and 21 incentives up to 27? And Mike Brown's agent calls Mike and says, here's what they are offering. And Mike goes, no, I don't want to do that. What if we do this instead? And then you call back and you go, that's how this goes. That they're going to the press with this is the biggest problem for me. The offer is not, it's low. It's not absurdly low where that is insulting. That's a good starting point. If you're the Kings, this is what we would like to pay because that's a bargain.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we would like to pay. I'm sure. And Mike Brown would like to make $15 million a year, but he's not going to do that. So, hey, how about 10? We'll start at 10. And then you work your way down. The Kings are already at this point where for whatever reason, for no reason, just jumped over to Shams and went, hey, make sure, send this out. For who? For what?
Yeah, it's a tough one, man.
It is.
It's a tough one because I also, Kyle, I don't get it. If that's how you're going to conduct this, keep it out of the press, the best you can. The parameters for this deal have been out there again and again and again. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like the parameters haven't been out there. Everyone kind of knows what the range is. Really. So why are you going well below what the range is? Someone tweeted at me. I apologize for not knowing who it was that tweeted at me, but they said something to the effect, oh, here we go. ID graphic on Twitter. When you finally buy your dream car and discover you can't afford the maintenance. That's what this, good coaches cost money, and they cost more money now than they did a couple of years ago. It's just the facts of life. It's
how it goes.
It's the cost of doing business. And again, I would continuously point to the fact that the Kings were worth a little over $2 billion a year and a half ago. They're now worth over $3 billion.
Mm-hmm.
The dynamics are changing all around you at all times. The NBA salary cap is about to skyrocket. The television money is about to triple. Why are we fighting over $1 million or $2 here per year?
Doesn't make sense.
Because what it does is it makes you look petty.
Yes.
Unfortunately, it does. Whether that was your intent or not, I think it really does make you look whoever's idea this was, it looks like, oh, first of all, you're not like looking around the league and seeing what everybody else is getting paid. And even if you look at the tweet by Sean Cunningham,
Friend of the show.
yeah, Sean's like, we're literally partners on the King's Beat. Like he's one of my dudes, right? But if like, why would you just pull out Jason Kidd and say Jason Kidd is making this? Okay, even if Jason Kidd is making that dollar, which I don't think he is, even if he is, why is he the guy that we got to compare Mike Brown to?
Yeah, I don't know.
Why is a guy with a 522 career win percentage the guy you got to compare him to? Why is
going to the finals?
Yeah, because he's going to the finals. Okay, big deal. He's going to the finals. Okay, he also has Luka and he has Kyrie. If you wanted to go, his general manager also went out and got Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington at the trade deadline. Yeah. So look, I would just like be fair here, like to be fair to all sides. I don't like it. Sure does look like it came from the Kings. There's some weird world in which it did not, but I don't see that world actually being out there. And let's be honest, man, the deal is right there for the taking. Like it's not that difficult. He wants 10 million. You got 7 million. You're right. The middle ground right there is like 8.5. You could even like 8.5 or 9, but make the incentives in which if he does succeed, he gets to X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
But why are you doing this? It just does not look good at all.
It looks small time because you're bickering over a couple of $1 million in an era where we know that there's a several $billion TV rights deal, like you just said, coming up. You mentioned the thing about the team's valuation climbing by orders of hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars over the last couple of years. And then you have this is not like part of the salary cap. This is not something where they're going, you know what? Hey, we can't keep him around because we're trying to maneuver this. And, there might be a big move down in the future. This is purely not super sold on Mike Brown. So we don't want, if we fire him, which we could definitely do, we don't want to have to pay him out and pay another coach. So what if we just try and like the Kings are trying in this instance, there's some give and take, and they're trying to all take right now.
Yeah.
There's no give in this. And again, I'm going to continue saying this. The contract offer itself is not insane. It's low, but not insane. It's not $3 million a year. And it is a contract offer. So credit to the Kings there for trying. It's not enough. It's not close. It is close, but it's not there. It's not, you're arguing over $1 million, maybe $2 million over the course of 3 years, or maybe you're arguing over one additional year that would come in 2027, 28, right? Is that right? 26, 27. Yeah, 27, 28.
Yeah.
That's so far in the future. And you want to talk about franchise values going up and TV money coming in. Like this is so silly. And then to go to the press with that as though this is Greg Popovich or Steve Kerr and we're talking 15s and 20 millions of dollars, or this is a Brandon Ayuk contract extension where it's getting ugly in the press and you're going back and forth and wrong numbers are being reported left and right. Like this is just an own goal, man.
Yeah.
And the frustration does not come from the offer. It does not come from, because you just said we're getting closer and closer to a deal getting done. So that's not even the issue at this point. It's like, dude, this is, you're so heading the right direction as a team, as an organization, as a franchise. Like Vivek has worked so hard to get this thing going the right way, getting the right people in place. And whether he has the right people in place or not, TBD. Whether they're going to win a title, TBD. But it's like, dude, this organization has taken so many steps from Vivek on down to move the right way. And sending this out to Shams last night out of seemingly nowhere, that's the small time stuff that people always say Kangs, Kangz. Like that's that.
Yeah.
That's a version of this. So all of that is to say, if they get a deal done, where it's 4 and 32 with some incentives that get it to 4 and 40. Again, what those incentives are, no idea. Then we're looking at like, okay, good. Cooler heads prevailed. They came to their senses. Let's move on. Like, this isn't something that we're never going to get over.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that is get passable. But right now, as we sit on May 31st, where Mike Brown doesn't have a contract, and this is the only thing we've seen publicly, that's silly. It is a circus type move.
Well, I think the other problem too is the NBA is about to take a 6-day break because the finals aren't until next Thursday. This is going to be one of the topics of discussion the whole time, and that's what you don't want to be, is the topic of negative discussions, and that's what this is again. Like this is, I was told when I first started this job by someone within the walls of the Kings that Sacramento's a good news town. They love good news.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's an opportunity here for really good news. There's an opportunity for you to lock up a great coach that just strung together 2 winning seasons, came up a little bit short, but all you got to do is make a couple of roster changes and get ready to go into another season where who knows where this team can go, right? This just feels like very short-sighted. Like you're
100%.
You're not getting like the PR look of this is like, what are we doing? And like, I don't know why they operate this way. This isn't the first time. It won't be the last time. But at the same time, I don't get why it has to be contentious all the time, why it has to get to this level all the time, and why you literally just went out, whoever did this went out and put a number out there that doesn't look good for you. It doesn't look good for you. You know, we no longer live in a world where you can go to the grocery store and get 2 gallons of milk for $5. We don't. A dozen eggs costs like $6.
Yeah.
Like, you want to go buy apples, it's like $1 something an apple. This is not the same world we lived in 5 years ago. And in the NBA world, it's not the same world we lived in 2 years ago.
Yeah.
The Monty Williams contract destroyed the base. And then boom, 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 boom. That base was solidified way up high.
Yep.
All of a sudden, you got to figure out where you are going to be as a franchise, because if it's not Mike Brown, it's going to be someone else that you have to pay this dollar amount for. Like, you can't walk into a car dealership and there's a $40,000 car and say, I'll give you $23,000. And the dealer's like, no. And then you get angry and you're like, what do you mean?
And so you're going to go try and buy a bicycle instead, and you're not going to win the race on a bicycle.
No. Well, that, and like, in the meantime, you're just damaging everything. Like, there is positivity here, whether they made the playoffs or not. There is positivity. There is a vision. There is movement going the right way, something that had not happened for 16 years. You got to try to harness that and ride that. And that's where I'm more of the opinion that, like, look, this was misguided, and it wasn't something that I would have done. And it's certainly not something that, if I were given that number and someone said, I'm like, okay, I'm going to quote you on this. Like, these will be in quotes. I'm not putting this out there without it being from someone else, from like very clear that a source gave me this information. Because, like, for me, I can't imagine like putting the words competitive. I don't want my words being put in there. Editorializing that this is a competitive offer, because I don't believe that that's a competitive offer in today's NBA.
Sure.
And if other people think that, that's fine. But you also have to look at coaching salaries and where they've been for years, and like what Mike Brown is up against as far as establishing this. You know, he needs to get paid what other coaches are getting paid in the league.
Yep.
And if nothing else, you don't get a Sacramento Kings discount when it comes to coaches, because, like, it's the Kings. Like, there's a history here where coaches lose their jobs very quickly. It's on Mike to fight for every dollar that he can, in my opinion. And I get the Kings.
Everybody always. Players, coaches, everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to begrudge somebody, for what they make. And I'm also like, if we see this deal get worked out, and in the end, it's like a 3-year, $25 million deal with incentives that could push it to 30, that sounds like in my head, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But that $4 million, it means a lot more in today's market, not just because it's Mike Brown getting $4 million extra dollars.
Mm-hmm.
It's that Mike is establishing with the other coaches that this is what NBA coaches make.
Yeah.
So
somebody in the chat asked, is there a bad news town? New York and Philly are the first two that come to mind.
yeah,
New York and Philly,
I think Chicago
in terms of sports, love some bad news.
Yes.
They are all about ripping into their teams as much as humanly possible.
Yeah, I mean, there are bad news towns, and I get that. Like,
from a sports perspective, I don't know.
Yeah, total.
I haven't spent enough time there in either of those places to know. But sports wise, I've listened to enough radio in those places to know they love some bad news.
Oh yeah, heck yeah.
But that's, I mean, you hit the nail on the head with that. This is such a freaking layup for the Kings. All you have to do is not sending this kind of stuff to Shams and negotiating in public, like you said, and that's just a PR failure. That's a swing and a miss. That's an own goal, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And it's not, they can't recover from this, and oh my God, they need to fire everybody and clean house. It's not that. It is not nearly that drastic. It's just a terrible look. If they came out today and said, and stick with me on this number, Mike Brown signs a 4-year, $48 million extension worth up to $60 million. There's not a single person who's going to be like, whoa, that's too much money. It's not their money. Is it affecting the salary cap?
Nope.
It's not. Now, if they went, hey, we're paying a coach, so we're not going to go into the luxury tax. Okay, now we can talk about an issue. But there's not some number that there's no negative PR for the Kings by re-signing Mike Brown.
No.
To any deal. So it's like, yo, just stay quiet until that happens, and then celebrate the hell out of it when it does. Have Mike Brown Day down in Doko if you want. I don't care. But this is a layup, dude. You just got to make it.